Come on. Hi guys, how's it going? Yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks since I've seen you last. I was wanting to do a series of videos for you, which is kind of will be ready now-ish. That took a bit longer than kind of once expected, so it's going to be split into 3 parts. I wanted to do some prints that everyone could do at home with just things that had lying about the kitchen, or maybe lying around the kitchen, or any materials they got lying around at home, and do some mono prints inspired by the works of Gauguin. Yeah, so the main thing is with the mono print is that it's mono means one. So you're not going to make a plate and get the same print off every time, which is really fun to kind of experiment with, and using different colours and different layers. It can be quite good and rewarding at the end, and it's a really good way to experiment with the inks and your surfaces rather than putting down a plate. So yeah, we're going to have a bit of fun doing that and having a look into how we can do that using 3 main things that I've got kicking around my kitchen, which is always cling film. I have some kitchen foil and some bacon parchment. We'll have a look at doing a couple of some abstract pieces, or some abstract, maybe using some cutouts and not collage, what do they call it? We'll call it collage, but that's not what I mean. So when I get onto the bacon parchment part, we'll remember what it is. Stencil, that's the one. So more like stencil work and using kind of colour and relief and kind of manipulating how the ink sets on the page. So yeah, what we will do is we'll have a jump into doing some of this, some printing. We'll probably start off with the kind of straightforward one, which is the tin foil. Yeah, so yeah, we'll get started. Obviously, get your cupboard, guys. Get your dirty print clothes on, and let's get started. Catch us in a sec. Okay, guys. So for the first one, we're going to be doing using the cling film, not cling film, kitchen foil, the shiny one, the one that heats up your food nicely. Yeah. So what we're going to be using the tin foil. What you'll need for this is a tin foil sheet. I cut it to around about the size of an A4 sheet of paper, just so it measures up the same size. You need a scrap bit of paper or newspaper. This is just to kind of get rid of the excess ink, so when you put it onto the plate, it doesn't kind of smudge and you get more of a crisper line. You need your printing stuff, so some ink, your roller, and just kind of a bit of PVC or glass or plastic you can kind of spread it across. Squeaky roller at that. You've got some paintbrushes or some blunt pencils, just to kind of make the marks, and because what we'll be essentially doing is drawing on the back of I'll keep wanting this called cling film. We should have done cling film first, wouldn't it be confusing? On the back of the kitchen foil or the aluminium foil or whatever metal foil you've got, and that transfers the image over. I've also just got a daft image from a magazine that I'm just kind of work on. Just so if you're going to be using an image on top to kind of trace it on, I'll show you how to do that. And if that all else fails, then you can draw freehand, which is great. And also your cuppa, guys. So with all that stuff, what you first want to do is you're going to maybe angle down the camera a bit more. We'll see. I will when we're drawing them out. Yeah, I'll have the camera pointing down when we're drawing it out. So simply what you want to do is start, I know it's counterintuitive, but you get your ink ready first, okay? And that's just by sticking it onto your surface and just spreading it around as we normally would, even spread across the roller, making sure it's all covered and good to transfer onto the foil. So what we're using is essentially using the plate or the foil as the plate or as your monoprint plate, and you're going to be creating an image drawn onto that into a Gauguin style print or Gorgan style monoprint as with the foil itself. So that's going to be technically the plate. We might get 1 or 2 prints off it because it being metal foil, it might leave the indentations in, which will be super cool. Don't worry as well if your foil's a bit crumpled. You can use it smooth. It's entirely up to you. I kind of prefer the crumpled effect. So yeah, what you want to do is once you've covered your roller, you're going to cover the back side of one of your foil, making sure you get an even spread. Across, and just see how the kind of pattern's making at the bottom where the creases are. You can leave that, you can get it as smooth as possible, but the idea is you don't want to rip the foil. So take your time with this part. I'm using water-based inks, but oil-based inks work just as well, or oil paint works just as well. If you're going to be using water-based, if it's starting to dry out, then just add, as always, a tiny bit of water, and that should help with with it setting onto the paper. Okay, so what you're wanting to do now is you're just going to take the excess off, and I'm putting that on the scrap piece of paper and just flattening that down. You might get a nice print from this, you might enjoy, but just using the back of your hands just to take the excess off. Okay, and that's quite atmospheric to begin with, so that could be your good first starting point. So I'm going to angle down now, and I'm going to show you how we're doing this as a stencil, not a stencil, kind of a copy from an image. Okay, catch you in a sec. Okay, you're seeing less and less of my face now. So your hands on your messy table. What you can use as well, just so it doesn't move, you can use a bit of tape. I'm using masking tape, just so it doesn't move around the paper. And simply what you're going to do is you're going to align that up. Don't press down too hard, just make sure that it's flat onto the paper. At this point, you can use a bit of your masking tape just to secure it onto the page. So I'm going to just stick a bit at the top and just wrap a bit around the bottom. And that's our plate, our monoprint plate, go to start. So simply what you're going to do is you're going to place your image, what you intend to draw, on the back, and this is where you might get a bit lost. I know I will. If you're going to be using a pencil, you can, I'll do that too, just as an extra thing to see. You can see where you're going with this, so without putting too much pressure on your hand, or the kind of palm of your hand onto the paper, you're going to just draw around your outline. And just as you're going, every mark that you make with the pencil, the shading on the see on this garment here, I'm just making that with a thicker line, and then just using the outlines to get the forms. You can be as precise as you want, just make sure that you remember where you are. So have a starting point, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably speed this up on the video just so you can see how it will come off when you complete your image. But before that, we'll use the different thicknesses of the, so I've got a really broad broad back of a paintbrush. It's an old paintbrush, it's a bit dried out, so simply use that and you'll get a softer edge. Maybe a bit of a... And using the back of the paintbrush is great for shading and just getting some of the more subtle lines going through. Using the pencil will give you a more crisp of a line, so an outline with a pencil is probably a good shout. And yeah, I'm going to secure this on and I'll show you how it's getting on so far. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. So as you're relieving the print, you'll be getting an outline. Okay? So I'm going to work through this, quickly get the form down, and yeah, I'll catch you in a sec. 2 minutes. Okay, so I think I've got the figure down. I'm not checking yet. We can kind of add more to it as time goes on. And I'm just going to have a bit of an experiment with the background here, which is quite a kind of atmospheric rocky background. So I'm just going to use the back of the brush here just to get some of the forms in of the rock formations, and just making the darker bits. Just so, again, it'll give it a little bit more atmosphere to the piece. Now, what I want is, from this, I want the darker bits to be really kind of standing out, so I'm putting a lot of pressure on the darker bits here, but I still want the kind of colour. Or not the colour, but I want the tone of the rock face. Which I'm going to just use just to get a light colouring, or a light tone of the black. I'm just going to use the back of my hand just to cover as a bit of shading and get any excess paint off, or excess ink off that monoprint plate that we've made. And much like most printmaking, guys, it's one of those with the final product. It's a kind of long process until you get in the final product. So we'll have a bit of a reveal. The great thing about this is, as well, is normally when you print, you do backwards. You don't need to with this sense. So let's say I'll do a little signature at the bottom just to show you how it comes off. And moment of truth is, did it come out? So I'm going to leave it to you guys to see. So that's a simple starter of how a Gorgan print would go, of how we would use it. He wouldn't use plastic foil of such, but you'd use like a greasy paper, which is what we're going to use with another side. If you see at the bottom corner, the little squiggle does come out. But yeah, that's a simple, it kind of comes out like a, what do we call them? we call them, my mind's gone blank, dry point. Kind of comes out like a dry point, which you can see. Yeah, so that's that. Okay. So stage 1 is the tinfoil. So we'll tick that off the list. Tinfoil. Number two is going to be our cling foam, and I'm more of an abstract print. Okay. So catches. Yes. So yeah. Show me what you're going to be doing, and give us an example of what prints you've been doing, what images you've been working from. This can work freehand as well. The more ink you put on, the more of a crisp like line you might get, as you can see with the using the back of the paintbrush. You get more of a smudge, but the thinner line you do get with a pencil. So yeah, that's that. Show us the prints that you've got going on. I'll catch you for part 2 of this, which will be not too long away. And yeah, print 1 done, Gorgan done. Get your covers for your next one, and catch us in a bit. Okay, see you, bye. Bye.